Hello and welcome to Community Forum. My name is Joseph Feaster. I'm the host of the program. And once again, I'm going to have an exciting program because I have a great guest here today. My guest today is a person who has been in the educational field for more than 25 years, has been involved in the Randolph public school system for at least the past 6 years, and recently was elevated to head that school system as the superintendent. And my guest today is the superintendent of Randolph Public Schools, Thea Stovell. So welcome to Community Forum.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I like to start with our guest, not our guest, but our viewing audience getting an opportunity to know more about the guest. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so again, my name is Thea Stovell. I am a product of Boston Public Schools. I grew up in Mattapan, and my family, I started off at the Dennis C. Haley, which is on American Legion Highway. I was there for a couple of years. My family then, I got on the list for Metco, got into Metco, so I went to Newton Public Schools for...
Hey, that's where my children went.
Hey, it's a great system. But I bargained with my mom that I said, if I can get into one of the exam schools, I wanted to stop having to take the bus to school in the morning. So the deal was get into an exam school and you can attend Boston Public Schools. So that's what I did. So I graduated from Boston Latin Academy, and I went on to Boston College. And interestingly enough, I went into Boston College with the plan of being an English teacher. But it didn't really happen that way. I started out and applied for a position at a program called Volunteers of America, which really serviced a variety of needs from children up to seniors. So I began to work in a group home, and over time applied for different positions, and actually went back and got my MSW in social work and became the Director of Youth Services. And it's actually because that's sort of where my path for getting into education started. Okay. So as I'm working in the group homes, I ended up having a juvenile locked facility as part of my my oversight, and an adult substance abuse program, as well as an adolescent substance abuse program. And so many of these students weren't able to actually go out to school, and we were servicing them in-house. But it was then that I realized that the kids weren't really getting what they needed, and we started seeing residents leave and return. And meanwhile, these are very young kids between the ages of 12, and most of them between 12 and 16, sometimes 17. So I started doing some research around what our educational programs could be like, which really got me interested in schools. So through the course of the work, I started to investigate, okay, how do I support this? And what do I do with this interest that I have? So I contacted the Department of Education at the time, which is now DESE, and applied to be a school adjustment counselor, and started my work in schools actually as an adjustment counselor. And just through the years, going through the ranks of being an adjustment counselor, moving into administration, assistant principal, which landed me in Randolph in 2012. And in Randolph, I started it's called AIM Academy. I was the founding director and principal for children that were pretty much considered at risk of not graduating or had already dropped out of school. So trying to pull them back in so that they could meet the graduation requirements, and getting really creative and thinking outside the box on what is it going to do to motivate children to want to learn and to get their degree. And interestingly, the assumption was that because kids weren't coming to school, they weren't interested in being educated. And the reality was they weren't disinterested. The system wasn't working for them. And so we had to get very creative in how we offered credit recovery, how we modified schedules, how we supported students in a smaller setting. And so that was the work that I did. And I did that for 3 years. Happy to say that the students did graduate. Some have gone on to college, others are working in careers. And then I moved to become the principal of the Randolph Community Middle School, which is where I've been for the last 4 years. And again, a challenge of creating a climate and culture that work not just for the adults, but for the students as well. And so spending my time there. And the plan was never to apply for superintendent at this position. Actually, I was considering a role in central office. And I applied for my licensure. And I had done, the work, just my years of administration, and I had shadowed other administrators. So what I ended up doing was applying for the position after school committee had put out a search and didn't pick a candidate. So when they did the second round, I threw my name into the ring. And I guess you would say from there, the rest is history.
Yeah, right, the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Well, let me just, I'm just sitting here, and folks know I'm not often quiet, but just to listen to your path to where you got, and again, as we talked about off air, I mentioned my interest in mental illness and substance abuse, as I call my ministry. It is fascinating that your educational track took you through a fairly tough and difficult career path when you're dealing with young folks who are in juvenile and group home facilities and are sometimes in fractured situations in terms of their life. So it is interesting, and then you emerge through education and then as the head of an entire school system. Yeah. So I just said I marvel over what you have just articulated here, because it's an interesting pathway in order to get there. So now you're at the top of a system. You've had the background working with young people throughout your career in many different aspects, taking the initiative to go to the Department of Education and work in a particular area, I'm calling youth adjustment areas, and then ultimately creating a program in Randolph called AIM, whereby you were able to get young folks who had basically dropped out of the system to come back and matriculate through that and ultimately graduate and even go on to college. Right. So now you are sitting at the head of a system where you have, and you can talk about the statistics. I think statistics are always helpful. How many educators you have, how many schools that you oversee, how many students are in the system. And then I'd like you to talk about both the opportunities and challenges and the directions that you foresee for the Randolph Public Schools.
Fair enough. It's interesting. So Randolph is a K-12 system. We actually have a pre-K program as well that is serviced. So there are some students who are there for half day, others who are there for a whole week. Some are free, some are paid students. And the goal for us right now is to get students in as early as possible, because the learning is challenging, and the sooner you can get them in, the better. One of the things that we've been looking at in our district, so right now we're a district of about close to 2,900 students. We have 4 elementary schools, a middle school, one high school, and then the alternative program, AIM Academy, which is located in the high school. There are a lot of educators. There are hundreds of educators, probably close to 500 if you were to count the paraprofessionals, the teachers, and all these support service staff that we provide, and that doesn't include the administrators. What's interesting about Randolph, particularly when we're talking about mental health and social emotional wellness of our students and our families, is that every one of our schools right now has in-house at least one principal and an assistant principal, a guidance counselor, a social worker, a psychologist in every building, so that we can continue to figure out what is the best way to service students and families in need. Not everyone's in crisis, but everyone could use additional resources. So we're looking at how to support those families. Interestingly enough, for me, being from being the principal and sitting in the role and saying, I wish we could do. I'm now in a place to be able to do that. And so part of my role has been to be more inclusive in terms of bringing in principals to get more of a voice. I mean, they are the ones that really lead the work, trying to develop a better connection between the work that we do along with REA, that's our union, our Randolph Education Association, so that everyone understands the path. So for me, the beginning of this work has been to create a shared vision so that we all understand the direction in which we're going. And that's where we are right now. We worked on our core values, and we're in draft form, but we're also working on creating our shared vision. What is our vision statement? What are we doing? What are the goals? And then bringing in all of our educators and our students as well as the community to understand the path and where we're going. So some of the challenges in Randolph, one of the biggest challenges is that Randolph, I call it the danger of a single story, is that there's this perception of Randolph that some of it's earned, but some of it's not earned. And there are images of, 10 or 15 years ago that still live very vividly in some people's minds of what our schools are like. And so interestingly enough, under our prior administration, we actually got off level 4 due to the hard work of our educators. There's a lot of caring teachers and administrators who want the best for kids. Do we have, pockets where we need to tighten up on things? Most definitely. If we had the funds, we could do it all, but we have to figure out where we are going to place our priorities. And so that's the work that I've been doing coming into the district this year. So I started out as interim in August. My entire time has been used to not only create the vision for the schools, but develop an entry plan. So lots of data collection to figure out where our strengths, where our weaknesses, where do we go from here, and what are going to be our priorities going forward. And so we've identified things like improving our special education programming, aligning our K-12 curriculum across the content areas, looking at how we can become more innovative in terms of technology and project-based learning and individualizing to meet the diverse needs of our students. Because interestingly enough, as some people may not see that as an asset, I think it's one of Randolph's biggest strengths is the amount of diversity that exists. And so reaching out to partner with our community and with our families and with local businesses to capture what we have to offer, I think is one of Randolph's biggest opportunities that goes overlooked sometimes. And so that's one of the areas that I really want to focus on, is that we've got a great student population that brings a wealth of information and knowledge. And so how do we capture what they have and expand on it so that they can be the best that they can be?
Well, that is certainly a mouthful in terms of the what you're going to be looking forward going into the future. I'm glad you mentioned about the demographics issue as far as the composition within the town and within your student body, because I was going to raise that. But before I go to my sponsors, I want to give you a little prelude to what I would like to talk about, because I'm a political guy.
Okay.
And I look at education having 4 stools. There's the administration, there are the educators, there are the parents, and there are the students. And my thing is I want to talk about whether all the legs are even in Randolph from your perspective, and if they're not, what do you might see as some things that you might do to even out the legs on the chair, because a chair with uneven legs can't stand. So when we come back, I'd like to have us explore that.
Sounds good.
Hi, this is Roy Cohen. The crew would like to thank Maxie's Delicatessen, located at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. You can reach them by calling 781-341-1662. The American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and from treatments. You can volunteer by calling 1-800-ACS-6662 or online at www.cancer.org. Ilsa Mark's Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market is located at 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher. That's 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. To get involved with Meals on Wheels, call Jessica at 781-344-8882, extension 2. The Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business. They're located at 27 Rose Glen Street in Stoughton. To advertise, call 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes here in Stoughton. You can see it on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m., either on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 28. If you have any comments or suggestions, contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Samaritans, 41 West Street, 4th floor in Boston, Massachusetts, 02111, or call them at 617-536-2460. The 24-hour helplines, 877-870-HOPE or 877-870-4673. Samaritans, 800-252-TEEN or 800-252-8336, or online www.samaritanshope.org. For you bingo players, I want to tell you about the Monday night bingo being held at the Ahava Torah Congregation, 1179 Central Street in Stoughton. The doors open at 4:30 p.m. The games start at 6:30 p.m. You come on down and win some money. They have 2 big prizes. One is $1,199 and the other one is up to $3,000. So come on down.
That's part of that stool where we need to increase.
Stoughton's Lions Club, the annual golf tournament at Cedar Hill Golf Course, 1137 Park Street, Stoughton, will take place on this coming Saturday, Saturday, May 18th. I think I'm correct on the date, but if I'm not, it's on Saturday, May 18th. And if you'd like additional information on this, you can contact Walter Parsley at 781-408-1248 or at wparsley@gmail.com. Thea Stovell is the superintendent of Randolph Public Schools, which is located at 40 Highland Avenue, Randolph, Mass. You can contact the superintendent or you can get to their website at www.randolph.k12.ma.us or contact the superintendent's office at 781-961-6200. Well, we are back, and if you're just tuning in, my guest today is the superintendent of Randolph Public Schools, Thea Stovell. She is an educator of over 25 years, has a great pathway of coming to Randolph in many disciplines, but for about 6 years, and now has risen to the position of superintendent of the Randolph Public Schools through her hard work and endeavors. We were exploring in the first segment her aspects of what she sees as the challenges and opportunities and what she would see designed for the administration of the Randolph Public School systems, the cooperation amongst her educators and others, parents and the students and fellow educators to get the job done. Well, now I'd like to shift, and I said it before we broke to hear from our sponsors. I put a metaphor in front of the superintendent, which was, I see the school system as a four-legged stool. It's the administrators, the educators, the parents, and the students, and I want to see how that metaphor fits within the Randolph Public Schools. So, Superintendent, that's the question to you.
Okay. Well, we definitely got that stool in Randolph. I think one of my jobs is to make sure that the legs balance out. And, right now, I think, a lot of the heavy lifting is definitely on the educators and the administration because we're the that's what we're hired to do. But I definitely want to see us increase our family and community engagement. I think for Randolph, or for any district, partnering with families is the best way to get the student achievement that you need. There's lots of ways to do that, but part of the process has to be that families feel welcomed and that they feel like they belong and that they feel like they're being heard. And so we've been doing a variety of outreach to families just to kind of hear what they think about what's happening in the district. And we're going to be doing on May 7th Vision of the Graduate, and we're pulling in the community and the businesses and schools and students and teachers and all to say, come talk about what you think a student who graduates from Randolph, what should they offer the world? What should they be able to do? And so we're going to make this a big community event, unroll our core values and our vision. It really gets people to buy in and understand the direction in which we're going. It's, getting the stool to balance is difficult, but it's the challenge that I'm willing to take on and face, because when we balance that stool, it works out for the students. It doesn't work for me any better than it works. It's all of what we do is for the students, and the student has to take a part of that stool as well, because they are the ones. They are the ones. They have to take ownership for their learning. They have to take responsibility. They're going out into the world, and so getting students to have a voice, getting students to be proud of what they do, getting them to be respectful and responsible and build character, all of that is included into what we consider the academic world of a child.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I find it to be remiss in many school systems. They only have put responsibility or accountability on two of those legs. That's the administrators and the educators. And I have a serious problem with that. I'm a total disciplinarian, and so therefore I believe that the young folks have a responsibility to carry their share of the weight. So I'm glad that you emphasize that. But there's two other aspects, I think, which speak to the whole system, or your interfacing throughout the entire educational system, and that's your upline, which is the school committee, and then there's also in terms of the union representatives for the employees within your system. Let's talk about those relationships now and going forward.
Okay. So I have a great relationship with the school committee. We don't always agree, but we work very well together. I meet with them almost on a weekly basis. I have direct connection to my school committee chair. So if there's questions or just want to keep her updated with what's happening in the district, I have a through line to do that. So that's been so far a great relationship. We have an understanding. I give a weekly update of things that are happening in the town, and sort of give a notice of what's coming up the following week, so that they are well aware and are able to insert themselves in where they would like to be. The REA, we're building a relationship. I will say that we're not contentious. I don't think we always agree, but we meet monthly.
Just REA, I know acronym.
The Randolph Education Association,
okay.
That is our union.
Okay.
In Randolph, and actually we meet every month. We have a meeting today, and the REA president puts forth an agenda of comments, concerns that she wants to bring forth, and we talk about them. And again, we don't always agree on what the resolution should be, but I think we have a very professional and open and authentic conversation about the needs of the district.
Well, let's, time moves on so quickly, so I probably have a minute here to be able to tell you any particular challenges that you foresee in the future that you would want to express today that you want to maybe assistance in overcoming. Anything?
Well, there's lots of things that mental health issues, we're looking to partner with a couple of agencies. That's a big one. Budget is always an issue. Special education for us is something that we need to focus on. And a huge one for us is really public relations. The story behind Randolph is not the actual story. It's not the real story. There are great things happening every day in our schools, and I invite people to come out and see what's going on. I've watched kids build prototypes of creating equipment for students with cerebral palsy being able to walk. I've seen engineering classes, manipulatives being used. There's just great stuff happening in Randolph. We've got a great band. Our boys basketball team just went to the state tournaments. They didn't make it to the finals, but they went as far as they probably have gone in decades. So it was it's an amazing time in Randolph. There's a lot going on. It's a great community. And I think the more we can get the word out for people to know that Randolph is better than what they hear.
Well, I want to thank you, and I wish you well. It certainly is. You are well prepared and positioned for this undertaking of being the superintendent of a large school system. I wish you well in that. As I said off air, the mental health area is of one particular concern to me. So anywhere from a personal side that I could be helpful, I offer myself. But as my mother has always taught me to say thank you, I say thank you to you for being my guest today. But I also want to thank folks here at the station. First and foremost, my executive producer, Roy Cohen, who is also acting as the engineer today. He's doing that, and bottle washer. Michael Hammond, who is the station manager here. Jeff Pickett, the program manager. Excuse me, Dave Young, who does everything around here, editing, and he also keeps bloopers on me, so I have to be very careful and treat him very well. Leo McGowan, in his absence, he was our floor manager, but he's convalescing. I want to say, Leo, we send you much love. And to Frank Walsh, who has stepped in to assist me in previous programs. And last but not least, C.J. Mullen, who has also works very closely with Jeff Pickett. So again, Superintendent, I want to thank you for being here, wish you all the best, and if we can be helpful to you, we certainly would be willing to do so.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on your show.